Good evening, everybody. I'm Suzanne Shirley, and we are going to be discussing tonight, by the way, Senior Ruby Ambassador with Plexus, chapters 17, 18, and 19 of What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstedder. Take that back. 15, 16, and 17. 15, 16, and 17 of this amazing book. Now, what we're going to be getting into with chapter 15 is actually how to put self-talk into practice. And a lot of us in our 90-day challenge, we have been putting our self-talk into practice, but this is really honing in on specifics, helping you to organize your thoughts around a topic. So if you have a specific thing that you struggle with, it's really specific to help you to come up with some 10 to 12 self-talk affirmations on that specific topic. And we're going to get into that here in a minute. But the workings of the human brain are completely indifferent to your station in life. And I think that that's a very amazing point that he made. The workings of the human brain are completely indifferent. They're completely indifferent to your station in life. So if you can reprogram your brain to act in the subconscious, act on what you have programmed it to do, you can remove yourself from the station you are in life and move up in some other station in life. There is nothing stopping you, okay, if that's the case. So to manage others, first we must manage ourselves. We must become really amazing self-managers in so many areas. There's two parts to good management. Effective management always begins with self-management, successful self-management. You can be a graduate student of management and never attain the essential skills of managing others if you don't first master the management of yourself. You cannot manage anyone else unless you can manage yourself. True leaders have their own selves firmly in control. They are in command of their actions, their feelings, their attitudes, and their perspectives. And when I read that, I realized that I have a lot of work to do, because in command of their feelings, in command of attitudes, my attitude changes as a result of my feelings for the day, quite frankly, and often. So if I can control my feelings, I will control my attitudes. And a lot of the times my feelings lead me through the day. So if we live based on what we feel, we're in big trouble, aren't we? Okay. Managers have an exceptional opportunity to apply self-talk to nearly every situation they encounter every business day. If you want your business to compete, grow, and prosper, put self-talk to work with your management system and your management team. Instead of replacing people on your team, start replacing their internal cannots with capable, confident self-belief. Don't replace the people. Replace the cannots, right? So what about if you want to earn more income or improve your financial stability? I put ouch to the side of this little margin thing. Yeah, this one hurt. The limits of our income are set by our own internal beliefs. Truth be told, your income matches your internal beliefs. That's the truth. Ouch, that hurts. If you want to earn more, you have to start by seeing yourself as worthy, deserving, capable, and willing by redirecting yourself to do so. So many of us, when we want to increase our earnings, what do? What do we do if we want to increase our earnings? We make the mistake of tackling the problem from the wrong end, from outside. We try to figure out how we can earn more money before we even believe that we're capable of doing it. If you fail to go within, you will go without. John Maxwell principle number 1, 1,000, trillion, whatever. There's a million of them, okay? If you fail to go within, you will go without. Your paycheck is going to equal your belief system. What do you believe that you can accomplish? That's going to be your paycheck. Start with your programming, the rest will follow. If you raise children, teach them or work with them in any way, it's not surprising that children, when they hear self-talk used repeatedly in the home, they begin to pick it up and use it almost accidentally. Children accept positive self-talk naturally, even more easily than some of their parents. Okay, here's the difference between a child and an adult. Children are still more willing to enthusiastically welcome anything which tells us the good things about ourselves. They have not been preconditioned yet or fully conditioned yet to believe less of themselves. Okay? Our inner selves would far rather hear the best of who we can be than hear the daily discourse on mistakes that we make. Children are closer. They are closer to their original potential that we were born with. They are closer because they have not been handed those massive bags of garbage that we have already been handed, and we carry them around. So a lot of people are cheating a better chance to succeed. Parents ask all the time why their son or daughter has chosen the worst possible kind of friends to associate with. All of us, and perhaps teenagers especially, seek out others who we unconsciously believe that we are most like. Think about who your kids hang out with and realize that that is a reflection of their own self-esteem. That should be a real big ouch for some of you. Wow, start thinking about that. Think about who you hung out with and when you were a kid. Who did you choose as your friends? Those people are a reflection of what you believed about yourself at that time. Take a look at your kids' friends. Those kids are a reflection of what your son or daughter believes he or she is capable of in life. Self-talk changes the picture, the whole big picture of ourselves. It changes the programming, which then creates the beliefs, which then develops the attitudes, which creates the feelings, which control our behaviors. If you like your child to do the right things, start at the beginning, start with his self-talk. Help him with his self-talk. You want to overcome an obstacle? The simpler the words are going to get you the important results. He tells a story of a woman who could not dial the phone at all, could not even push the phone numbers in the phone to get a job interview for 2 whole years because she was so afraid. And she implemented self-talk and then dialed the number and then got an interview for the next morning. It's literally that fast. Okay, so if you can consider how quickly self-talk can affect your behaviors, I want you to get that in your head. Believe me when I say, or should I say, just believe Shad Helmstedder. The results are profound. Okay, that job interview could change the whole rest of her financial future just because she talked herself into, with self-talk, believing so that she could dial a phone number which gave her a job interview. Now think about that. That helped her in the matter of 12 to 14 hours to dial a phone number and get a job interview. That's quick results. That's behavior that turned around in an instant. It's not behavior that's going to continue unless she continues the self-talk. If you want to reach your goals, look, everybody needs to have goals and they need to be trying to reach them, but you can't reach them if you don't implement self-talk. So if you're trying to reach goals, why not have your self-talk revolve around some of your goals? Setting goals and talking to yourself go hand in hand. You must talk to yourself in exactly the right way and you will find the road easier to follow to get to your goals. If you are not yet setting goals and writing them down, then you should be doing that, and we all should be doing that. And that means daily goals, of activity, monthly goals of activity. Okay, I would suggest that we need to have a number of people that we want to sponsor per month, a number of people that we want to gain as new customers per month. But in doing so, we can't just make that goal and then have that be the end of it. We need to have daily goals of talking to certain, how many people are we going to talk to today? How many people are we going to talk to tomorrow? How many people are we going to talk to this week? How many follow-ups are we going to be doing? Okay, so daily activity goals, weekly activity goals, and then monthly sponsoring goals. That's what we need to be doing. And those goals should be part of our self-talk. If you are already an active goal setter, give your goals the gift of your own self-assurance. Why not implement self-talk, right? Add the words of daily direction and encouragement of self-talk to your goals, and any well-set goal deserves the benefit of well-said words. So if you want to improve your job, you can do anything with self-talk. If you tell yourself that you do not like your job, then guess what? You don't. You don't like your job. If you tell yourself that you're unhappy with your manager or employer, then guess what? You probably are. All right, so give yourself the advantage. Talk to yourself about your work and the people that you work with in a way which makes you work for you, so that it works for you and not against you. And guess what? It will. Your success always depends on what you think and what you tell yourself the most. Expect the best and then tell yourself the best. Expect and then tell yourself the best. If you do, there's a good chance that's what you're going to be getting. So if you want to do better in school or anytime you're improving any kind of a skill, implement self-talk. If you ever get down or feel lonely or become depressed, self-talk. Self-talk is going to get you out of that loneliness state. It's going to get you out of that depression state. If you're down emotionally, you need to implement self-talk. If you created it, then you can change it. Think about that. Anything that we created, we can change it. All kinds of depression, self-created, can be lightened or removed, guys. That's pretty promising words right there. Any of us can talk ourselves into a depression and discouragement, so we can easily talk ourselves out of it. New word for word programming is what we need. That's all it takes. There's opportunities to use self-talk, and guess what? They are unlimited. If you just simply would like to do better in life, this list is literally endless. If you want to develop better self-esteem, get more done. I love this little paragraph on 129. I don't know if you guys have the same page that I do on the hardback, but it lists categories here. I want you to keep these categories in mind for our assignment that's going to come up a little bit later. If you want to develop better self-esteem, get more done, change jobs, learn a new skill, become more creative, reduce stress, take better care of yourself, stop worrying. That's one of mine. Overcome depression, break through your limitations, get along better with others, become more successful at anything. Your own self-programmed self-talk lies at the root of your success. Remember that. Think of any job, career, position, task, or opportunity that comes to your mind. Anything. Anything applies to this. Going on to chapter 16. We're going to have to change our habits if we're going to get this done. Habits are going to be an implemental part of getting our self-talk. When we have our self-talk that's oriented in a particular category or a focus, it's going to be changing our habits in that area. So self-talk suggestions or phrases fit into one of four categories. There's only 4 categories. Habit changing, attitude building, motivational, or situational self-talk. So what we're going to be talking about tonight is 2 of those: habitual, habit changing, and attitude building. So that's what we're going to get to when we finish chapter 17. We're going to talk about changing our habits, and then we're going to talk about changing our attitudes. And those are 2 really big areas, guys. And then next week, we're going to work on motivational self-talk and situational self-talk. So I want to go on over to 131. let's look at a few more common habits with which all of us are familiar with. I'm going to read some of them. Did you highlight some of your big ones on here? I think I would assume that if you read this chapter, hopefully you all did, then you highlighted some of the ones that you're struggling with the most. Putting things off, procrastinating, smoking, by the way, Christy White just announced that she's quitting smoking, and she's making a big to-do about it all over Facebook. If you've not been following her, you need to go follow her. She's an incredible inspiration. And I tell you what, I cannot imagine how many of her audience that's not Plexus is following her on that. She is attractive to people because she is doing something extremely amazing with her life that other people can relate to that have nothing to do with Plexus. Putting things off or procrastinating, smoking, working too hard, not working hard enough, arguing. You argue with people too much. Ignoring problems, sleeping in too much. Forgetting names or other important things, being a complainer, making excuses, losing things, overindulging, eating and drinking too much, being sarcastic. I had a problem with that in the classroom. I thought it was funny until it hurt some kids' feelings. Some kids could laugh with me. Other kids could not, and it hurt their feelings. I was too sarcastic. Saying yes when you want to say no. That's a big one for women. Never being on time, not listening, blaming others, interrupting other people when they're talking, being disorganized, not telling the truth. You know, not telling the truth goes into the same category as over-exaggerating or just exaggerating at all. That's not telling the truth. So there's all sorts of not telling the truth. It could be just omitting some information. Lies of omission, right? Worrying, being a gossip, not keeping someone's secret, talking about them behind their back, not setting priorities, letting your emotions control you, wasting time, giving advice that's not asked for, spending more money than you earn, talking too much, being overly critical of others, not taking care of details, starting something but never finishing it. So there's a lot of things we could talk about, and you know what? The list goes on and on. That's just some of the big ones. So I'm sure that you guys related to some habits that you'd like to change. What you need to do is you need to put your self-talk in the present tense. And if you're not putting your self-talk in the present tense, then you're already robbing your brain of the transformational thing that's going to take place. All positive self-talk, with the exception of situational, which we're going to talk about next week, which we'll discuss later, is written, read, recorded, listened to, and thought and spoken in the what? Present tense. It is always stated as though the desired change has already taken place. You talk to yourself as if the change has already happened. Wording is imperative, the specific wording that you use. If you say to yourself, I will, I'm going to, I need to, I shouldn't, I'd like to, I want to, or I wish I could, guess what? All those are creating doubt. Those are not creating anything in the affirmative in the present tense. None of those are in the present tense. So those are technically negative and working against you. Do not use any of that phraseology. State your goal or the result that you want to achieve in the present, because the subconscious mind does not know what is true and what is not. But in time, it will accept that you're willing, that you're telling and acting on it. Remember, it will attempt to follow the exact wording of the directions that you're giving it. So what are some examples? I always do everything I need to when I need to. I never argue or let my emotions work against me. I do not smoke. I have a good memory. I easily and automatically remember any name or anything that is important to me. I eat only what I should. Notice all these are in the present tense. Even if you say I always and I never, those are the present tense. I am. I eat. I don't smoke. I don't eat. I am, I always, I never. It doesn't matter if you put affirmative or negative words in there like never or don't or always. Okay? It doesn't matter that you put those affirmative or negative words in there. As long as you keep it in the present tense, those are powerful affirmations. I have, there's a present tense. I never spend. I set goals. I spend time. All those present tense. I have the courage to state my opinions. I take responsibility for myself and everything I say or do. I never spend more than I earned. I am financially responsible for both my present and for my future. I set my sights and I take the appropriate action and I achieve my goals and I set goals and I follow them. Okay? When you're using self-talk to change a habit, affect an attitude, or create an internal motivation, it works most effectively when you build a solid body. We're going to talk about what a solid body is in a minute. It's a solid body of self-talk around a subject that you're working on. So you take a category or a subject that's real important to you that you're trying to work on, and you build a body of self-positive affirmations around it. If you've got a problem with organization and you make one affirmation about it, that's not going to get it. 2 affirmations is not going to get it. 3 affirmations is not going to get it. 4 affirmations on organization is still not going to get it. And guess what? I learned that this chapter because I have some categories that I'm trying to work on, and I have maybe 5 or 6 affirmations built around that category. And that's not enough. And I thought it was enough, but it's not enough. We need more than that. And we're going to talk about how many we need. One phrase of the right kind of self-talk can have an effect on your behavior, but is only when you paint the entire new picture. You got to paint an entire picture for yourself, for your brain. When you paint that entirely new picture of your subconscious mind, then you are going to derive the full benefit of your self-talk. You cannot expect vague directions, hints of solutions, and shadows of expectations to get you where you're going. You're not going to be able to do that. You might as well, if you're going to put in the effort, you need to do it the right way. And I have to say, I learned this myself, okay? No matter how large, I'm going to read this, it's very important. This paragraph is very important on 135. If you want to kind of put a star out beside it, you can. Page 135, under where it says get specific. This is going to apply to your homework, okay? When you use self-talk, leave no stone unturned. Isolate the problem. Look at it from every angle. Make a list of every area within that problem. And add a line of self-talk to cover it. When I found few problems which can be solved with a single phrase or 2 of self-talk, I found that in most cases, any specific problem, no matter how large, or any goal, no matter how important, can be covered with as few as a dozen or so well-chosen self-talk suggestions. So if you want to quit smoking and you have about 3 or 4 sentences on it, that's not enough. That's too big of a problem to only have 3 to 4 to 5, even 7 phrases on that. Self-talk is not one simple phrase or 2. Self-talk is a specific set of concisely worded directions. This is really important too, that little part right here. So I want you to star that. This is the 3rd paragraph under get specific. 3rd paragraph under get specific. Self-talk is not one specific simple little phrase or 2. Self-talk is a specific set of concisely worded directions, usually a group of a dozen or more combined phrases linked together on the same subject, which jointly paints a detailed picture of the better you that you would like to become or the change in your life that you would like to create. So that's the idea that I want to get across here. You're going to need at least a dozen. So what Shad Helmstedder does right after that is he gives, count them up. 1, okay, this is all about stopping to smoke. Okay, stop smoking. How many does he do? Notice how he has, in the very first grouping, he's got 3 sentences in one. It's like he's got 3 sentences in one little deal. Notice it says, I do not smoke. My lungs are strong and healthy. I am able to breathe deeply and fully. I think that what we're doing is we would assume that that's 3 separate affirmations. But that's not. That's a whole painted picture of an idea. And there's 3 sentences within that picture. And then when you put them together, count them up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. He has 14 big ideas with several sentences in between the ideas that paint a massive picture of what it's like to not be a smoker, what it's like to live as a non-smoker, what it feels like, what it tastes like, what it smells like. What are his emotions involving not being a smoker? So I want you to really take that in, the idea of we need to get really, really, really specific. And I'm not going to read all these right here because they're in black and white. And if you have the book, I want you to make sure that you understand what painting a picture is around a topic or a category that you are struggling with. Pretend this is organization. Well, you're going to have to start getting really specific about organization. Okay? You're going to have to paint a big picture in many different types of ideas. Around each idea, you're going to have maybe have 3 sentences. What is it that you do all the time that is keeping you disorganized? And start attacking those things and say that you don't do them. You're going to have to get real specific. Maybe when you get something out of your wallet, you don't put it back immediately where you got it. And so you need to start being specific about that. Instead of saying, I am organized, I put things where they belong. Well, that's not enough. When I take my credit card out of my wallet, I put my credit card back in my wallet immediately after use. When I take a book off of the shelf, I put the book back on the shelf immediately. When I wash my clothing and I take it out of the dryer, I fold it immediately and I put it away. Do you see how you've got to get specific? If you want to really attack this thing and overcome a problem that you have, a habitual situational problem, then it's multifaceted. Being disorganized is not just one little idea. It's a complex situation. And you're going to need to get very specific to overcome those problems within that big problem. Okay? So what about the habit of wasting time on worry? That's my big one. Oh my Lord, I live in the future. Conquering just this one negative habit has turned underachievers into winners and given them extra time. Peace of mind. Huge. And a fresh new outlook on life. I'll be honest with you, I'm very vulnerable with you right now. Oh my gosh, and I always thought that this was God related or and it might be. Maybe I could involve God in my little category here, but I'm never content. I just realized this morning. I woke up this morning and I asked Tom, I said, are you mostly just happy all the time? Like, do you have things rolling around in your brain that you're never satisfied, that you're always trying to get solved, or you're thinking about something that hasn't worked itself out yet, and you just rolling that around in your mind all the time, and you're wondering how that's going to turn out, how that's going to work out, is it ever going to work out, is it going to blow up? You just think about all the possible outcomes. And he said, no, I don't do that. And that's a worrywart. That's somebody that worries and lives in the future. And because I'm never content. And that robs my peace, and that gives me no joy. And I am not living a happy life, a prosperous, enjoyable life. You can't be happy on the way to where you're going if you don't have mental peace of mind. If you're discontent all the time, right? So I'm really going to look at this section on worry because I love how he worded every single one of these issues that revolves around an idea. And he talks about specific things that you do when you worry. Okay? Mind constantly being in tune with the positive. Bright, cheerful, enthusiastic, full of good, positive thoughts. I control my own thinking. I only think those thoughts which create and fulfill the best in me. I'm able to relax. Notice how he brings the idea of relaxing. Because I don't relax. Even when I'm relaxing, I'm not relaxing because my mind is going around. I'm able to relax. See what I'm saying? There's so many different things that go in with worry that we need to take it apart. Take apart what happens when you worry, and then talk about each of those things and make some phraseology, maybe 3 or 4 sentences about each one of those things. Okay? So really take a look, and you're going to have to be able to have a good command of the English language, I have to say. Maybe you don't, but I don't know. Just my linguistic skills come into play here. We've just seen what will give you an idea of how self-talk is constructed and how it covers not only the problem itself, but how it creates the surrounding mental environment, the big picture that feeds and supports the decision to change. You've got to choose a habit that you're going to like to change. Okay, so that's part of your homework. So I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But we're going to be choosing the big 3. You might make a list of all the problems that you've got. And that's going to be part of your homework, when you're going to make a list of all the big things you've got issues with. But you're going to have to pick the biggest 3. The biggest 3, because if you can pick the biggest 3 and start to tackle those, then it affects all those other ones that you're struggling with as well. Okay, it's going to feed into that. Don't try to change your life overnight, because guess what? It's not going to happen. Start off with a minor habit, something small, then change the words which describe yourself, to you. Once you begin, keep at it. It is exciting to watch the changes that take place, to witness the replacement of old habits which once got in the way with the emergence of fruitful, valuable new habits of winning. Now I want you to really think about this before we do this last chapter. This woman who couldn't even dial a phone number to look for a job started her self-talk one night and really plugged away at it, and the next morning was able to dial a phone and get a job interview. So really, it's not going to change overnight like that, but you are going to have results, but you're going to have to work at it. The second thing we're going to talk about out of the 4 things, which is, the first one was habits. Now we're going to talk about changing your attitudes. Remember, the others were motivation and situational. Okay, that's going to be next week. This is going to be changing your attitudes. So everything we do is affected directly or indirectly by our attitudes. A change in a person's attitude can affect almost everything about everything else in the person's life. If you have better attitude, you're going to have better results. I saw it every day in my classroom. A kid with a negative, just absolute downer attitude affected every kid in the classroom. Oh, and I wouldn't allow it. Negativity coming out of a kid's mouth, I'm like, okay, you can think it all you want. It's a free country, but it's not going to come out of your mouth, because when it does, you're not only affecting yourself, but you're affecting everyone else around you. And if you can't do what I tell you to do, then you're going to be spending some time outside in the hall or in the principal's office. Because, attitudes literally change a way a person acts, and it's immediate. When you can change your attitude, like literally you can go from flipping the coin from one side to the other. I know, because I've done it over and over and over with myself. I recognize my attitude sucks right now. And so I start saying those positive things to myself, and I'm like, what was wrong with me? Get out of that old mindset into the new. And I'm going to do some stuff right now. I'm going to conquer this. And it's amazing how quickly your behaviors can change when you change that attitude. So please know that there's so much power in changing your attitude. It affects everything. It gives you that edge. It gives you a really slight edge. Attitudes create the biggest picture of how we see ourselves. They're the filters through which we view everything in our sight, and our dispositions, our state of mind that we're living in. Our attitudes express themselves through our moods and our temperament, our willingness and our hesitations. They are the single most determining factor in every action that we are ever going to take. So don't forget that. We and our attitudes are inextricably combined. We are our attitudes, and our attitudes are us. So we control the attitude. We can change our attitude. And when we do, we are going to change who we are. Okay? So managing attitudes in others. Oh boy. Fun. Have you ever caught yourself? You need to check your attitude at the front door. Have you told your kid that? Have you said, I know, because I told my students, you got a bad attitude. You need to change that attitude. Do you think they changed their attitude because I told them that? No. Am I going to be able to change their attitude because I tell them that? No, you can't. It comes from the inside. The person from the inside has to want to change their attitude. It's not going to happen otherwise. Okay? Do not expect to change somebody else's attitude by holding out a carrot or a stick, like dangling some sort of an incentive. If you try to incentivize an attitude change, you might as well just forget it. You are wasting your time. Okay? Incentives, lectures, punishments, complaints, or flattery. None of it works. None of it. Forget it. You are completely spending time wasting it. You could be doing something else with that, okay? In spite of the fact that school counselors, oh boy, this hit home. I put wow out to the side of this. School counselors, parents, husbands, wives, managers, friends frequently tell some individual, you need to change your attitude. Oh, God. Telling somebody that has never done any good at all. You just can't tell anybody that. In fact, just saying that to somebody can have the actual negative effect. It has and this is what's so terrible about it. It works against that person. Because you tell that person, you need to check up from the neck up. You need to change your attitude. It's a negative programming. It's programming them negatively. And it will work against that individual instead of for him. It reconfirms his pre-programmed belief that all those bad things he already thinks about himself are true. Oh my word, if I would have just known that before I told my students every day, some of them, you've got a bad attitude. Oh, really? Thank you so much for pointing that out. You know? Oh my goodness. Every attitude we have, good, bad, or indifferent, is the natural result of the programming that preceded it. So if you change your attitude, you're going to change yourself. Change them within yourself. The attitude which you have about yourself creates an additional important result. The attitudes that you have about yourself determine the attitudes you will have about everything else around you. So if you can change your attitudes about yourself, guess what you're going to start to change? Your attitudes of everything around you. Now that's a pretty powerful idea right there. If you want to change the way that you feel about anything else, then you've got to first start with what you feel about your attitudes about yourself. Okay, examples. If you want freedom from worry, take responsibility for yourself, or like building self-esteem or positive self-talk for teenagers, or overcoming obstacles, determination and willpower, successful marriages, overcoming personal limitations, believing in the incredible you. Those are all attitudes, right? If you want to take control of those situations, the difference between having an attitude of accepting responsibility for who we are and what we do, and having an attitude which makes excuses or places our lives in the hands of others, it's essential in our ability to achieve a sense of self. You've got to get control of your own attitude about yourself, or else you're never going to work on your marriage. If you don't get a good attitude about yourself, how in the world are you ever going to overcome your personal limitations? If you don't have a good attitude about yourself, how are you going to ever overcome any obstacle in your life? How are you ever going to take responsibility? If you don't have a good attitude of yourself, how are you ever going to stop worrying about stuff? Boom. I don't know about you guys, but that's a huge idea to me. It's simple, but it's huge. I mean, we're going to attack worry. We're going to attack our marriage and try to improve it, but we don't have a good attitude about ourselves to begin with. We are done before we start. So here's an example, and notice how he takes a picturing of ideas and smatters them across a canvas. So each one of these quadrants or these phrases are a part of painting a picture. So I'm going to read a few, and let's count them. I'm going to count them because remember what he told us, 12 minimum. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. He's got 13 here. So a minimum of 12. Okay? And they have more than one sentence in each phraseology type structure. I take full responsibility for everything about me, even the thoughts that I think. That's all one sentence. Second sentence, I'm in control of the vast resources of my own mind. And that's one mental picture, the way you think. I alone am responsible for what I do. Now we're talking about what we do and what I tell myself about me. No one can share this responsibility with me. So it's personal responsibility for what I do. I also allow others to accept the responsibilities for themselves. And I don't try to accept their responsibilities for them. Okay, so now I'm not going to try to tell other people to be responsible for themselves. Now we're talking about other people's responsibilities. Now it's enjoyment of being responsible. I enjoy being responsible. It puts me in charge of being me, and that's a challenge that I enjoy. So he's talking about enjoyment of being responsible. So these are all subcategories of taking personal responsibility. And this is verbiage that we have to be able to come up with. This is advanced. Is it not, my friends? Is that not advanced self-talk? Yes. If we can do this, though, we are going to be unstoppable. Okay, I want to just create this idea within you. Just stop for a moment, and I want you to think. If you had a whole team of people that were using this book and adopting the principles within and applying them in their lives, whoa, think about what your team would be doing. Okay, we have 11 people. I'm looking at the screen right now. We have 11 people that are on our call right now. We have 35 or so people left in the 90-day challenge. That's including me. We started off with almost 60. Okay, that's about half that are gone. And we have a team of 1,850 people right now. And 50% of them are not even doing anything. There's 0 PV every month. Can you imagine what would happen if we had a team of people that implemented this? We'd all be diamonds by now. I'm just serious. I mean, if you can get this now then, and don't worry about your team doing it, worry about you doing this. But make it a priority of making this your thing. It's got to be the number one thing you think about and do. First thing you do in the morning, get up and do this. And I'm preaching to self as I tell all of you this, because do I struggle with doing this every day? Yes, I do. There's something in me that says you can do this without it. You don't need this all the time. You don't need to say this stuff. Bull. Okay, I'm almost done. If I were ever to teach in the classroom, says Shad Helmstedder, I would add the lesson of this self-talk to my everyday curriculum. Boy, howdy, wouldn't I? I related to him when I said that. If I ever taught in the classroom, I would be making that a part of what we do. It is the fabric of which all success is woven. It is the God-given birthright which all of us were born with and deserve to retrieve, embrace, enjoy, and possess for the rest of our lives. It restores us and builds us up. It structures our character. It sustains our strength. It fortifies our courage. It is the internal substance of self-belief. It is the talk of self-esteem. And if you are struggling with confidence and self-esteem, you probably should take all of page 148 and 149 and make that into a recorded message to yourself. Okay? You don't even need to change it up unless you feel like you need to. Because if you have a problem with believing in who you are, and all of us struggle with that into some degree or another. Others of us struggle with it in a far greater degree. Others of us don't struggle with it in such a big degree. Or there's other categories that we struggle in self-esteem. But we all have self-esteem issues. So I would venture a guess that we all need to take that and put that into a category of some sort of recording that we are saying to ourselves every single day. I really am very special. Some of you are going to think that sounds horrible. Yourself, which is so negative in thinking about yourself, is going to think that that sounds ridiculous, foreign. I like who I am and I feel good about myself. All day long, I don't like who I am. And I'm going to tell myself that. It's hard. Although I always work to improve myself and I get better every day, I like who I am today. And tomorrow, when I'm even better, I like myself then too. We're talking about today liking ourselves and tomorrow liking ourselves. It's true that there really is no one else like me in the entire world. That sounds egotistical, doesn't it? But it is the truth. There never was another me before, and there will never be another me again. Look, we need to start to value who we are as people. I'm telling you, I'm going to take that whole thing. It's going to be one of my recordings. What simple words they are, the truths that tell us about ourselves that we contain inside of us, placed within the beliefs of any one individual. Those simple words possess a power which few of us have ever hoped to attain. And yet that self-belief, that sense of self-esteem is available to all of us. Can you imagine living that way each day and knowing it? Well, you'd be unstoppable. Take stock of your attitudes. Look at your attitudes, assess them, examine them, take stock of your beliefs about yourself, take a mental inventory of your attitudes, good or bad. Decide for yourself which of those attitudes work for you and which ones don't work for you. The ones that don't work for you, the ones that you don't want to keep, throw them out, get rid of them. Keep the ones that you like. Change the ones that you want to change. Take charge of your attitudes. Put yourself back in control. And when your attitudes get better, so does your life. With that said, I want to talk to you about your homework. And I'm going to still record this because anyone watching this needs to put this into action this week. Okay, I'm going to write this into a separate post on the 90-day challenge so that you can all write your thing there, okay? Your attitude determines your, okay, I want to say this. This is a really great phrase. Your attitude determines your altitude. Isn't that what we just figured out? Your attitude determines your altitude, how far you go in life. Take a checkup from the neck up and determine what our attitudes actually are. Figure out where you struggle. Figure out where you struggle. Your overall attitude might be positive, but you might struggle in a particular area. Okay? Maybe we need an AA. Helen McFadden likes to call it an attitude adjustment, an AA. Have an attitude adjustment. Okay, so there are 11 to 15 grouped sayings that will relate to your big challenges. Okay, 11 to 15 grouped sayings, phrases, sentences that are going to relate to your big challenges. There could be many other areas that you need to work on and work things out and improve in your life. So go and take some time and write out whatever they are in those categories. Write out the categories of the things that you need to work on. Do you need to work on being a self-starter? Do you need to work on being more disciplined? What about exercising? What about money management? time management, organizational skills. What are those big things you're trying to work on, okay? Maybe you talk too much about other people. Maybe you talk about other people to your, even if it's just your spouse or your significant other in your life, and you're talking about somebody that's negative all the time, or somebody that's not doing something for you or not serving you. Maybe that's something you need to stop, whatever the case may be, okay? Take out, after you write all those categories down, take the top 3 and create at least 10 grouped sayings. He recommends 12. At least 10 grouped sayings for each of those topics. And then what I want you to do is start to chart your progress in these areas of your life. As you become more disciplined or you're exercising more, etc. The top 3 that you have will really help you. These 3 could be the drivers for the other areas in your life that will make you even better, okay? Work and fine-tune. You need to work and fine-tune these affirmations, okay? These need to be detailed, not too simple. Like, for example, I already gave you some examples, but I'm going to talk about, like, if you're going to do exercise, it needs to be like this. Remember, you're going to paint that picture. I ride my bicycle. Okay, instead of saying something simple like I ride my bicycle for 20 minutes every day. That sounds like it's great, good enough, but it's not good enough. Instead, you need to say, I love putting out my exercise clothes the night before, my socks, my shoes, in order to be prepared. I love waking up every morning, getting ready to exercise. I love to exercise. I love to run every day for 20 minutes. So do you understand? These things must be very specific to what your challenge is. It's got to be very specific. And if you're not specific, you're not going to overcome these things, okay? How about this? I no longer have any bad feelings about walking in my neighborhood. I have a walking power partner now. Whatever the case may be. 10 or more will allow you to go and be more specific, okay? So 10 grouped phrases. And if you're wondering about that one part that you needed to go back to and understand, it's in chapter about changing your habits. It's the star over on page 135. Okay, in most cases, any specific problem or no matter how large, or any goal, no matter how important, can be covered with as few as a dozen or so well-chosen self-talk suggestions. It's not one simple phrase or 2. It's a specific set of concisely worded directions, usually a group of a dozen or more combined phrases linked together on the same subject, which jointly paint a detailed picture of the better you, which you would like to become, or the change in your life that you would like to create. And with that, that is what I want you to focus on this week. Okay, and it's with that I'm going to turn off the video and we're going to have our team discussion. Thank you, all of you, for joining us. I'm sorry it was almost a full hour. I love every single one of you. Peace out. Mwah. Have a great week, and we'll take the next 3 chapters